Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Sato, Market News. Governor, you mentioned one of the strengths is technological advancement and energy efficiency. These factors tend to keep the prices down. And next year, this year, government is going to revise the CPI data, rebasing and probably revamping the basket. So that's going to obviously push down your medium-term CPI forecast. In these circumstances, would it be a mistake, to read your minds about what you may or may not do in the future if we focus too much on core CPI and not look at other data, including asset prices?
The rebasing of consumer price basket with some impact on consumer price inflation rate. That is true. And we are mindful of this possible impact. And having said that, the behavior by consumers don't change just because of change in how to calculate consumer price impact. What is important is how the price will behave in months to come or in years to come. And in this regard, we think that the deflation is gradually abating, and we will see some positive number for next year. And the reason behind this is that output gap is now narrowing, and also the international commodity is rising. So this will increase consumer price inflation rate. But as for monetary policy, our criteria is very clear. We continue to maintain the current very accommodative monetary policy, zero-interest policy, until price stability, the price stability will be in sight based on our definition of price stability.
Christoph.
Süddeutsche Zeitung, Germany, Christoph Neidl. Governor, you just addressed the spillover of the low interest rate with the yen carry trade, which probably helped to fuel the subprime bubble in the US. Now, this low interest rate for more than 10 years had another effect, that you deprived yourself of being able to react to the Lehman crisis because you couldn't lower interest rate at that moment. So in hindsight, do you think it was a mistake to keep the interest rate so low for such a long time? Thank you.
It's one of the toughest question. And central bank is responsible for maintaining price stability. Central bank is responsible for the economic stability. And given that we observe the weakness in economic activity, it is natural for central bank to lower interest rate. And but as you said, the interest rate is lower to zero, means that there's no room for the monetary policy. But we try to create the stimulating effect through the instrument of monetary policy. That's why we decided on several policy measures last year. For instance, we purchased the various risk assets. And given that the yield on risk-free assets, such as JGB, the yield on the current bond is low, one possible channel is to suppress risk premium or risk spread between the low-rated corporate bond and the government bond. And therefore, I don't say we exhausted monetary policy measure. We try to create an effect. But having said that, what I stressed in my speech is, as I stressed in my speech, we have to redouble our effort to boost the potential growth rate. Otherwise, the economy cannot go back to the sustained growth path.
We have Mr. Ogata with us, the former Vice Governor of the Bank of Japan. I want to welcome him. I didn't see him for a long time. He's a friend of us and a friend of Mr. Shirakawa. Ken, short question.
Kenneth Kukier from The Economist. One of the other aspects of low interest rates, the drawbacks of it, is that it will support unprofitable firms by lowering corporate performance, an issue you've spoken about before, Japan's vitality being low. Wait, do you factor this in to how the central bank could improve corporate performance and improve Japanese growth by increasing interest rates rather than focusing only on prices?
Again, this is very difficult question. The very low interest rate has both merit and demerit. As you said, the prolonged period of very low interest rate could have the environment, could embrace the environment in which the inefficient firms can be alive. I think the monetary policy has some element which you described. But at the same time, I don't think this policy alone is a sole source of maintaining inefficient firm. And after all, society, the policy is a reflection of the philosophy shared by society. And in this regard, we have to focus on raising productivity. And that kind of thought should be shared by many people. So I don't think monetary policy alone is a source of the problem.
Next question, please. Please be succinct.
Governor, you mentioned vitality. I'm Roy Lockheimer, a freelance member of this club for a long time. You mentioned vitality in your talk. The other day, when Moody's downgraded the country rating of Japan, the Prime Minister was asked at his press conference, what did he think? And he said he had no idea, or he was too tired. Is that the vitality you're talking about?
I don't make any comment on climate comment. Like other central bank governors, central bankers are always careful about speaking about fiscal policy or fiscal situation. I don't make any concrete or specific comment, but at the same time, as a governor of a central bank, I feel obliged to explain what is the implication of fiscal situation on macroeconomic activity. What is the relationship between fiscal situation and overall economic activity, etc. And in this regard, I would say, first of all, Japanese fiscal situation is, of course, in bad shape, in a very bad shape. That is without any question. You mentioned about the number, the gross number of public debt. And the gross number is somewhat misleading. We should focus on net number, meaning adjusting for the financial asset. If we adopt that number, then it will reduce to 120%, which is still worse, which is worse. But first of all, gross number is somewhat exaggerated. Having said that, situation is in bad shape. First of all, country cannot continue to run deficit forever. Therefore, society needs a credible commitment to fiscal reform. And secondly, the to raise potential growth rate is needed. But in this regard, we have to be very clear about what is meant by increase in growth. Sometimes people tend to say that the increase in nominal income growth, nominal GDP is needed. But it connotes that the desired effect can be attained by either the rise in real growth rate or the rise in inflation rate, interchangeably. But that is not true. Take a look at chart of handout. Chart 13. This chart shows the relationship between the increased growth rate of revenue or expenditure on the one hand and inflation rate or the growth rate of real GDP on the other. For instance, the top panel of top panel, the left-hand panel of top shows a relationship between GDP growth, GDP deflator, and revenue growth. And there's no correlation between inflation or deflation and growth of revenue. On the other hand, the increase of expenditure has a strong relationship with the inflation rate in terms of GDP and deflator. As for the relationship between real growth rate and revenue, there's also very clear positive relationship between the two. And what these charts tell you is we need effort to increase real GDP growth rather than the inflation rate. Of course, if the real growth rate is increased, then we will see some increase in inflation rate. But inflation per se doesn't solve the problem of budget. So we need the increase in real GDP. Also, we have to be realistic. As I said in my speech, the growth of per capita productivity is not that bad compared with other countries. The average growth rate of per capita income is 1.5%. Coupled with declining working population, this means the growth rate of real GDP is declining if we don't take any effort. Therefore, we need the fiscal reform in addition to the increase in real GDP. So that is my response.